You are now entering the Take Up, place together when the film is over. I'm your host, Joshua Ray, and I'm here with my co-host, the managing editor of thetakeup.com, Andrew Wyatt. Hey, Andrew.
Hello.
Every episode, we get to decide if one film enters the Take Up canon, and today we have our wonderful guest returning to the show, Billy Rock from Do You Like Apples, and his pick for a film that made him a cinephile. That's M. Night Shyamalan's Signs. And then we'll have one more thing. You know what's exciting about this, and I think I kind of maybe moved you in this direction, Billy, that I don't think Andrew and I have really ever properly talked about M. Night Shyamalan, despite being kind of horror bros.
You guys are horror bros?
Kind of.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. But hi, Billy. Thanks for returning. Billy Rock with Do You Like Apples, Substack with Drew Went. Drew's going to be on a future episode discussing something. I know what it is, but I won't spoil that yet. But thank you for returning.
Of course. I'm really excited. We're at Do You Like Apples are back from a hiatus as well. So it's nice to kind of match up with you guys a little bit, coming back to Push 2. So this is exciting.
Yeah, St. Louis Cinephilia on Fleet the Fuck. That's what I have to say.
It sounds like a line that M. Night could throw into a movie, not fully understanding what it means. So this is going to work.
That is a character from Trapped saying words.
Yes, for sure.
You know what, though? This script is a lot tighter. And I don't think I'm going to be alone in thinking that. I don't think I'm saying anything unique. You know what? Yeah, it's a lot better.
Yeah, 100%. He still had a fix on what he was good at this time. And he's still a good director, but we'll get into that shit.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. Andrew, you got beef with Shyamalan?
I don't have a beef with him. I have a bit of a mixed feelings about him. And unlike you, I haven't seen his latest. I haven't seen his two most recent. I haven't seen The Beach That Makes You Old, and I haven't seen Trap yet. I know you're a fan of Trap, Josh.
Whoa. You're missing something very important that happened. There was a knock at a cabin door.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Oh, that was unfortunate.
Yes. That was...
I think that
movie that made me instantaneously angry.
Yeah, I think we'll get into it, but I think that film offers some really instructive criticisms about screenwriting.
Well, I think it has some interesting things to say about religion and faith. Does it? This movie that we're talking about today might.
Yes.
Billy, so you picked Signs.
Yes.
Tell us about it. Like, why is this an important film to you? Or does it just kind of pinpoint an era for you?
It pinpoints an era for sure. And a little change in my brain about how I kind of approached watching movies, but for the most part, it just was a very formative movie moment where I was on a family vacation, probably 2 or 3 years after it came out. And I was in a hotel room, had the pay-per-view package where you can choose from an endless list of movies. Grew up in a family that very much was monitoring what content you could watch on screen. So we tried Anchorman for a hot second in 2004, I believe. And then as soon as Ron compliments Veronica Cornerstone's breathtaking Heine, that was immediately turned off. And then we threw on Signs. And it kind of hit that perfect lane for my family that it talks about faith. It's PG-13. It's not gory. It's only suspense. That we all completely bought in, and I just really remember that movie-going experience. And it created a few things. It kind of it created my first celebrity director that I was excited about. And then it has so many themes in it that are very, with adult brain, a little bit elementary about faith, but in moments of crisis of faith, which we can get into that. And I'm very open about my journey with that. So I would love to parse that out a little bit as well, but I think a really honest look at what crisis of faith is. And yeah, just formative and a movie I can go back to for whatever reason I want it to be. A silly, quick thriller, has great suspense or something a little bit more grounding. Like, oh, I'm going through this moment, so might as well throw on Signs that breaks down every faith argument, faith, crisis of faith in a very childlike way, which is M. Night's bread and butter and also detriment, I would say.
I think he's gotten, I'm joking about the screenplay and dialogue and everything, but I actually think he's gotten better on thematization of his ideas in his films as of late, and Trap being sort of an auto critique of his own career and what he does, even with the whole crispiness of it. That's a joke for people who have seen Trap, which I don't know is that many, but a film that I really like. There is a self-seriousness to the proceedings here, and especially weighing Man of the Cloth, who goes through a crisis of faith whenever his wife is killed by the director of the film.
Wild.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting thing. And then, of course, 6 months later, has to undergo another crisis of faith, or continue crisis of faith, when an alien invasion definitely happens. So, yeah, this was also a movie I watched a lot. I really liked this, but it was, for me, the family, my immediate family, we liked it a lot. I've seen it a few times since. It's like music that I've listened to often. I kind of always recall the beats, always kind of recall the different lines and everything. But you're right. As you mature, you sort of mature out of the way it's addressing these things. I don't know. Maybe I'm not giving it much credit, and we just started talking about it. Andrew, what's your relationship to Signs?
Um,
Signs the movie, not
yeah,
just Signs and semiotics.
I recall seeing it in the theater when it first run, so I must have
Me
been
too.
I must have been there, opening weekend or close to it. I was a huge fan of Unbreakable. I was maybe not a biggest Sixth Sense fan as other people. I liked
Agreed.
it. I liked it. I caught it on DVD like 2 years after it came out. It was fine. I didn't think any much of it. Unbreakable was the film that sort of wowed me, early film that wowed me. And I recall this film wowing me too at the time.
Yeah.
But I've maybe revisited it like 2 or 3 times in the sense, including just this week. So yeah, at the time I thought it was a pretty great film. I think now rewatching it, I can see the seams a little more and see the things that I don't necessarily feel as strongly about. But weirdly, most of my criticisms are not like the typical CinemaSins criticisms of like the logistics of the alien invasion or bullshit like that. Like
Yeah.
that doesn't those elements have never bothered me, and I don't know why it bothers some people. For me, the criticisms are more about like directorial style or screenwriting. But overall, I think this is an incredibly strong film. It's got a great texture to it. The score, the performances, I think, are good. This is actually, I think, maybe the last film that Mel Gibson really wowed me in. I really like his sort of the gentleness of his performance in this film.
Yeah.
And the whole concept is great, right? Like the War of the Worlds. They literally say War of the Worlds in the movie. It's War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds.
But stripped down even further to like the most ground level. Like the pitch is great. The pitch is what if War of the Worlds from one family's perspective in basically one setting, which is a great concept. That sort of drilled down. I find this sort of thing way more compelling than aliens blowing up the White House. Just me personally.
Oh, of course. I mean, it's always more compelling to filter your story, and no matter how big it is, through personal experience. That's why Spielberg's War of the Worlds works really well too. And we can argue about that if you want. I don't think we should here, because it'll probably take a long time.
Yeah.
Okay, Andrew, you said a lot, and I think that'll give us our structure here. All right. What are the CinemaSins about the invasion? This might actually seem like an aside, but I don't think of I don't see plot holes hardly ever, because I'm not smart. So can you educate me? Like, what's the problem?
Well, Billy could probably speak to it better than I can.
Yeah. But I'm glad we're seemingly being on the same page here, where the critiques of this movie, which I think can be sparsed out into the rest of his career, being like, does he think through his scripts fully in terms of logistics? He's a borderline master at blocking and being so detail oriented about those things. And then you get into his script and you're just like, wait a second, do I need to think about this anymore? Does it actually matter? And signs, whatever all right, let's just go through each of them. So the water aspect at the end of this movie, a lot of people have hang up on that, where the signs of the world is everything meant to be. Is anything a coincidence? The waters of the little girl being laid around the house.
More just logistically, like if you're a super intelligent alien race who's allergic to water, why would you invade a planet that's 70% water?
Okay, fine. Now I get
Yes.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you say obvious shit like that, then yeah.
Good pointing out that like Shyamalan loves to give exposition through newscast radio. He does that throughout all of his movies. And I think in Signs, it's the least noticeable, or I didn't really notice it until movies like Back at the Cabin and those type of things, where I was just like, oh, you're giving us a lot of exposition here in really silly ways. But in Signs, it feels integrated into the world of a small town through local newscasts and whatever. But at some point, I think it's towards the end, a person on the radio suggests that they're not here to take over the world. They're here to essentially probe humans and then abduct them and take them away. So
yeah, harvest their bodies. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it gives enough of a excuse for these aliens. Like, we know we can't overtake this planet. We have a very specific goal to abduct some humans for reasons we don't know. So that's why they're getting in and out. That's why they leave aliens behind that are injured, and any ones that are left behind, they're fine with, because I guess they harvested enough humans and are on their way. So their goal wasn't to take over the world and inhabit a new planet. It was, again, an unknown thing, but maybe it was to take humans and get in and out as fast as possible rather than stay on the planet forever, which explains it kind of. But
yeah, logistically, I guess we can all buy it, right? Like none of that really occurred to me. I'm busy thinking about how he's tracking the camera around the glasses of water throughout the film, how he thinks he's, man, I always go here, but he's like, he's my dad. He's my actual father. But he thinks he's Brian De Palma and like planting Bobby on the steps in Dress to Kill. And like, he's not, you're not that clever, sir. Like, watching this and Sixth Sense and the films that are predicated on their value being in the twist, or their value being in the paradigm shift reveal, those do not play very well a second time. Although I would argue that The Village works really well once you know what is going on. But this one is just it's so obvious, but it is also interesting because ultimately there's a directorial presence in it, in the camera, and in that, again, I was kind of being facetious when I said, talking about M. Night playing the character who killed Mel Gibson's wife, but he's the one who spurns the entire plot, really, and puts them in this kind of, as he thinks he's building a Rube Goldberg machine. And it's really just, oh yeah, little girls like glasses of water. But that's the interesting thing that I think I really want to get to in this is, like, if you didn't have that kind of button on the end where he puts his, what is it called? Frock? What is it?
Priest is what?
Hasek?
Yeah.
Back on, and he puts the collar back on. You get that sort of just little button at the end where, yes, he has decided that there is some kind of force navigating him through the world. If you didn't have that, I still think the film would be interesting in questioning that, even if all of these things are around them, these glasses of water, the baseball bat, the argument he's making that his wife just fired off in her dying moments, some kind of memory, even if everything is chaos, that in that moment, chaos sort of dictated that he was able to do everything because everything's at his disposal. Like the randomness of it is okay. I think you could read it that way, but M. Night's presence in this and his willingness, his unwillingness to be ambiguous in the end of the film is to its detriment.
Yeah, I think that's where I think it is. I don't know. The ending of this movie harkens back to a brain I grew up in, where your faith has to land on some type of positive, not in terms of like a positive attitude, but just some type of confirmation that like I believe this. I'm going to make this by, at least in the evangelical world, evangelical servitude to spread whatever this means to me. And the journey of this movie does such a good job at like questioning all the things that you just mentioned, Josh, and then very much lands on, okay, he's okay to be a priest again. I think it's Episcopal Church he's a part of, because he's married, and that confused me throughout this one, where he has kids, but where's the seemingly Catholic part? But anyways, that's where I differ for where my brain is now. But I don't know if it makes it a better movie if M. Night were to leave it on this. We're okay with chance. We're constantly searching where our faith lands, and that's okay. I just don't think M. Night ever is going to be comfortable with that thought, because he seems to be of the mind that like I have to be confident in what I believe and outwardly project that into the world, which can be a farce, and especially with someone like Mel Gibson at the helm, even more of a farce. But it's just that ending was more complicated for me for the first time, and I like the confidence to end it on that note. Like, this is where you're supposed to end up in M. Night's mind. But if it was more open ended, I think it could have been a stronger ending to the film. So
I will say that as somebody who's not religious or theistic in any way, I really like that little button, because partly because of the grace of it, because there's no dialogue, we don't need anything, we just get that panning shot through the snow. Time, like, it tells us all we need to know. Time has passed. Grant has returned to his church, returned to his faith, and that's it. Like, there's no dialogue. We just get an image of him putting on the collar and leaving and going about his day. And I like the elegance of that. Like, I feel like 2025 Chalamet might have like put a whole freaking like speech in that code. whereas one painting shot of an actor, no dialogue, to me feels right.
He did such a good job throughout the rest of the film. He has the speeches. He gives Mel Gibson a lot of speeches to give to each of the characters, but amazingly some restraint at the end through that beautiful painting shot to give it the cap. But yeah, Andrew, I think I am a little bit in your camp with that, where it's gracefully done, it's calm, it's just lets you being excited about that this family is on the right track again after terrible loss and all of that.
Yeah, I think the film overall, even with the gripes I have with it, grace is a really great word. Like his camera is fluid, but it understands when to cut, when to jolt, and I think he's gotten even more interesting a filmmaker and more experimental with the camera, and the way that he'll move it, the way he'll frame characters are really interesting. And he did seem like the cover of Time magazine had him as the next Spielberg in the moment. And oh, how much I would love to tell them the future. And it wasn't that far off. I mean, okay, first I have to ask a question. When they were marketing this film, and I could have watched the trailer and I forgot to, wasn't kind of the whole mystery around it, like what are the signs, and that the aliens were a question mark, right? Like
the crop circles. The crop circles were front and center in the marketing, as I recall.
Yeah.
And there was some question about whether it even was aliens. Although I think part of what makes this film such a nice, low-key, underexplained film in some ways is that we don't ever really, like, the word alien is projected by the characters onto these entities. We don't know. We see lights in the sky, right? On television, never in the film, in the experience POV of the characters. Are these aliens from another galaxy, from another planet? Are they interdimensional visitors? Is this some arrival shit? We don't know. It's never explained. And I like that. I like that how little what we're seeing is the characters taking, and you mentioned his use, Shyamalan's use of television reports, which I think is really effectively used, but also a lot of media is used. We have that sort of crank UFOlogy book that the son gets from the bookstore, and they're using it as sort of an instruction manual. And some of the information there actually proves prescient, and some of it is sort of nonsense. But I like the way that the characters are taking things that they overheard on TV, rumors that they heard, things that they're hearing secondhand from secondary characters, and then repeating it, things that they're picking up from the book, and mashing it together to create some kind of framework for what the fuck is happening and what should we do about it? What should be our emergency response to this incident that's unfolding before our eyes and may be putting our family in jeopardy? And I like that aspect of it, that there's never, for a movie with a lot of speeches and monologues, there's never a monologue where a scientist character explains what the hell is happening. It's really about the family and their relationships to each other in this moment of crisis. And I like the sort of alien invasion through that filter is really interesting.
Yeah, I think M. Night here really understands what I guess people always compliment obviously Spielberg and definitely Hitchcock, where he understands where the tension comes from. But in terms of the faith aspect and how that's weaving in and out of the story, the crisis is the tension in any of the confidence and belief that M. Night the filmmaker has or the characters have in the movie. Just to enter the family dynamic of like a father who's going through that, where his kids and brother still have a foundation and are pushing back against Mel Gibson, against Graham. I really love that push and pull. Like in a worse movie, I think the father would have been the one with confidence yelling at his kids, like we all do when we're growing up. And for me, someone that is constantly going through that conversation about faith in my own brain, like, oh, I look to the authority figure to have that confidence. And now more than ever, I question that. Whereas in a bad movie, the patriarchal figure would have confidence. The kids would be the one having the crisis of faith after their mom died. And same with the brother too. But all of them are very confident, whereas the main figure, Graham, is the one struggling the most. And his family is what keeping him grounded. And if he doesn't figure it out, obviously his family's not going to survive and all of that. I think that's such a, I want to parse out a little bit more why, Andrew, it doesn't seem like you're in quite the same camp, but why you think Josh, at least, M. Night's a better filmmaker now than he is in Signs. And this is where I'm going to come back into trying to pitch you guys to keep this into your Hall of Fame or whatever you're calling it.
Oh, you're arguing for it. All right. I'll accept arguments.
Yeah. So I think this is the best M. Night's ever been. I think if he could have bottled up this moment and understand why this type of filmmaking works for him, juxtaposed with how confident he was as a filmmaker at this time. That Spielberg article, I found the Spielberg headline about him in Newsweek. I found the article that I think was the marquee of that magazine, that issue. He's just, the person interviewing him calls him out as cocky, and that sends off M. Night the entire interview trying to prove to this interviewer that he's not a cocky filmmaker. He just wants to prove that not independent, but original films can beat the franchises, can beat all these different things, and then go from there. So I just love the confidence at this point of his career. And not here, this has probably only enhanced his cockiness. But soon he loses it, and maybe he needed that to for you, Josh, to become a better filmmaker. Whereas for me, I think he lost something. So it's a moment I missed. Even though I like a lot of M. Night's newer movies, I'm glad that he's back and seems to right the ship. I just don't think it's better than anything he's ever done, but it's just such a good culmination of his 3-movie start and all of that. So this is me fighting for Signs in your Hall of Fame.
Well, I don't know that I disagree with you. I don't know that it does get better than this. I think it gets more interesting once he goes self-production after all of the turmoil, after Avatar and the Will
Afterman.
Smith thing,
Mhm.
and like after all of that, The Last Airbender. Sorry, yeah, I think that's the on-screen title.
The Visit was like the turning point, right?
The Visit.
When he went indie, yeah.
And in The Visit, he sees the innate comedy in his own filmmaking, and he's funny. This film has a lot of wit in it, kind of verbal wit, character wit, but I'm talking about his actual filmmaking and the kind of self-awareness with how silly he can get. Glass is such a film that is absurd and makes no sense. Logistically, it's it's just eating up the cinema scene. But is so incredibly willing to go so far out there that that's the kind of unsafe filmmaking. Like this to me, this film, as still kind of nerve-wracking it is, it's still really safe, like popcorn fare. Like
Yes.
it is. But I still appreciate that. And I think, to Andrew's point, it's really graceful filmmaking. It's a genre filmmaking in the highest order. It's still really safe.
Mhm. And there's no room for that on your Desert Island Hall of Fame, whatever we're calling it.
We haven't voted yet. We
I
haven't
know.
voted
Again,
yet.
I'm feeling the pressure now.
Pristine. I think Josh and I are definitely in the school that like pristine, quote unquote, genre exercises have value in and of themselves.
Mhm.
It's just a question of, does this rise to like Jaws level,
Right.
pristine,
That's fair.
flawless filmmaking or not?
Mhm.
I want to talk a little bit about the one thing I think is particularly noticeable in Signs, and I think becomes part of the text for non-textual reasons, is how Shyamalan feels like he's showing off a little bit in this film with how much he elides on screen. And part of the conceit of the film, right, is that the aliens are sort of flitting around the edges by definition. Like they're not shown that much until the climax. And even then, he does a lot of trickery, so we don't get any like lingering shots of the terrible CGI. But
It's smart, but it's also like, this is the Spielberg rule. No, that's the Jaws rule because the shark didn't fucking work. Like,
yeah,
thank God. But now it's a couple generations later. It's like, no, this is what you do.
yeah.
Right.
But I really, one thing that struck me is I really like how much he keeps off screen, and not just in terms of the alien. There's some really great sort of cuts where like things that another director would have put on screen for maybe a higher rating or more violent rating or something, like the dog attacking the little girl in the beginning, I think is really great. We go from like this tense fixed camera setup, very low to the ground, the dog growling and yelping at the little girl, and the girl sort of backing up suddenly, and then that's it. We end the scene. We cut back to Grant and Cherry Jones out in the field, and him saying, I think something like, "I can't hear my children," and that to him is like a dad sets off an alarm bell. And then we cut back to the scene of violence already having happened, and that fork skewered in the dog's neck. Rory Culkin, surprisingly strong little boy, having like we're in the aftermath now, and I think that's such a it feels like a very early M. Night touch, but those kinds of touches, particularly in this film, I think really work about how he works to keep a lot of incidents in off screen when they're not essential to maintaining the mood or the momentum that he wants to maintain. And I do like that a lot.
The way the mystery is parsed out in this, and the reason I asked about that alien marketing is that I'm actually surprised how quickly you learn that, yes, it is some kind of, other, right? Like we solved that mystery very quickly. But then it presents what the actual problem is how the fuck do we get through it? And the way that information is parsed out in this, I find really elegant. And compared to, The Sixth Sense, which again, its success is predicated on the twist of it being that the kid sees dead people and he's dead. Spoiler alert or whatever. Like it's not very interesting. And then rewatching it zaps it of any interest. It's like, okay, now I'm just code breaking. But this one, at the heart of it, is a story about grief and loss, and it is so good at doing all of that. I think a really unfair person might say that the kids are kind of like cute in this, like, or like kind of deadpan, or but those people don't really understand what it is to be like walking with an incredible loss, and the way each person in this, and Meryl sort of like, that's his sister-in-law, like that's an important person to him, but the way it wasn't his immediate family, and the way he's able to navigate through talking about like the moment where they're on the couch, kids are sleeping, and Mel Gibson is giving one of these monologues. He's speaking the themes of the film about chance, predestination, fate, all this stuff. And Meryl, Joaquin Phoenix, says, you know what? I think I agree with you, because that woman at that party, I didn't kiss her and get barfed in the mouth. And that's the kind of like humor in this that I think is so funny, because it's all really character based, which is like, it's just different from the other humor that would come from his films, I feel like. But in this one, everyone is like, it all feels very real and lived in. And I agree with Andrew. Like, I can't think of films where Mel Gibson is better, but this is actually really atypical for him too, to play something so subdued. And there's really only one moment where you can see the grief like seeping out of this person, and the way he's holding it back. And God bless him. Well, his performance in this. That's such a weird thing to have said, Josh. The scene where he's with Ray, played by M. Night Shyamalan, on the DVD menu, it was called Ray's Confession. M. Night Shyamalan is not an actor. I don't know what he's doing. It's crazy to me that he keeps casting himself. And like, we get what you're doing and what you think you're doing, but he nearly just wrecks this movie in the middle of
really?
it.
You think so?
Yeah.
That person is, what he's saying is at complete odds with the way he's behaving. He's so like morose, and he just trapped the fucking alien in the pantry. But
We don't know how we would react if we trapped an alien in our pantries, honestly.
Fine, sure. But I just murdered the priest's wife, and he also says something really shitty to him.
Yeah, I have this quote written down, because this is like,
say the quote. What is it?
so I worked so long that night. I ain't never fallen asleep driving before, and never since. Most of the ride home, there wasn't a car in sight either direction. If I'd fallen asleep then, I ended up in a ditch with a headache. It had to happen at the right moment. At certain 10 to 15 seconds when I passed her walking, it was like it was meant to be. The meanest thing
it was meant
anybody's ever said. And I think that's where I can't tell if Shyamalan has that written out in that way to show, in a way, how mean, especially like predestination, that type of thing, is to explain to a lot of people. Because I remember being taught that growing up. I grew up in a Presbyterian church, and that is very much not like a core doctrine, but right below the core doctrine, where it's like, this isn't something we believe. We're going to teach this to our entire congregation. When you're a kid, you're just like, I guess that makes sense. And you're told that when you ask, like, how do you know if you're predestined or not? You're told that if you have faith and you fight for it, that's how you know you're predestined. But if you break away from that at all, you weren't. And it's like such a mindfuck thing to hear as a child. It, for a while, instills confidence. And then when you hear that from what's the character name, Ray, like, you are in your 30s or older, and you're saying this to a man whose wife you killed. Like, what is wrong with you? And I hope
it's just the framing of it is really terrible. Like, why would you say that? Like, if you really feel guilty, you would understand not to say that
to Meryl or his kids or anything like that. I guess because he's going through the crisis of faith, where he's much more gentle with the way he delivers these type of messages that he learned and taught for so long. And I hope that M. Night would writing himself, the character Ray, so confidently to show the concerning nature of what Graham taught his congregation for so long, where it was like, you're really confident about this. You lost it. I still have it. Now you have to confront with
I
either wrong or right direction that you send your congregation down. So it might be giving too much credit to
wanna-
that scene, but I dug not the performance, but I dug the guts to kind of put a character with that confidence and faith in the middle of it. And
And
yeah,
then to play it yourself.
yeah, maybe not the best decision, but in terms of the right direction, I think he was on the right direction for sure.
Well, I just have to say that I think Mel Gibson is so good in that scene because
Mhm.
the way his grief wells up and spills over in that moment is how that works. It's you bottle it away for so long, then suddenly someone says something, and he's not responding to that. He's responding to the kind of implicit apology in all of it, even though he says that shitty thing. But the way he just like completely cracks in that moment, like finally, like someone acknowledged to me, you know, that this terrible thing happened, and it in the way that it happened was so terrible too, that Mel Gibson is just really good at that. And he's good at that when he cracks at the dinner too. And as he's just walking through life with this void, I think it's just a really great performance. And it's so unfortunate that it's Mel Gibson, but that's fine. Art and artist, I guess. Andrew, what do you make of the car confession?
I mean, I don't really mind M. Night in this. I've always viewed Ray as sort of a character who's designed to be a little bit off-putting and hard to talk to, and that's what makes Graham's forgiveness or lack thereof, or inability to even talk about it, a little bit harder. If Ray was like overly conciliatory and really apologetic and sort of had been groveling at his feet for 6 months about the horror of it all, I think that makes it a slightly different. But the way that Ray has avoided him and they've avoided him, the way that one detail I noticed that I've never noticed in this movie that I loved, but again, the early script writing from M. Night that's actually really good, is the way that when there's something wrong with their dogs early on, Graham says, we'll take him to the doctor, and he references a human doctor, an MD. And they're like, but he doesn't treat animals. And they're like, well, he'll know what to do. What left unsaid is, why not just take it to a vet? Well, because the only vet in town is the guy who killed his wife. And the way that they hold that close to their chest until that scene when Graham goes to visit his house, and we see the veterinary medicine office and back plaque on the side of his house. It's just a great writing detail. That's the kind of note I absolutely love.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until the first time.
Billy.
I was watching with somebody last night, and I didn't notice that connection until just watched her. Like I remember the moment of him not calling the vet, but it's such a quick, and also super weird to have your title of career on your mailbox right outside your house.
No,
super
I think
strange,
It
but
no.
not be in a
For
very
a rural-
small hamlet. Yeah.
Maybe,
For
yeah.
a rural veterinarian, the whole like, I live here, but also my office is around back. It makes perfect
that
sense.
makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
it makes sense.
There's a
But,
lot of telegraphing in this film. I mean, that's kind of part of the point, but one to what you're talking about, Andrew, that I did not like, and to where to point my sympathies, right, is okay. Well, Cherry Jones put a pin in it. Our Lord and Savior Cherry Jones, I will say.
she's so good.
The point where we get the first flashback, and she clarifies it wasn't drunk driving. He fell asleep at the wheel. The script is telling me how to feel in this moment. The script is telling me to go easier on him. It's telling the character to go easier on him because it was an accident out of his control. It's not something malicious. And that to me is like, that's going a little too far, a little handholdy. And then as it turns out, you're the director and you have your presence in it, which I think in The Village, the M. Night Shyamalan figure is really interesting because he gives an entire exposition dump, like for a
Off screen.
Off screen. Yeah, it's really kind of. I like my Shyamalan trashy, and he knows it, or maybe he doesn't know it, and that's even better for me. But there's a lot of kind of telegraphing that is, I guess that's really apparent after the first time you've watched it, what's going on. But that sort of emotional hand holding, I'm good. Like, I don't need that. Just do it.
That just struck me as something a police officer might say to a spouse on arriving at the scene to clarify the situation. I guess it didn't stand out to me.
But
One thing I love-
why the assumption drunk driving? Like, why do we have to say that? I think it's purposeful. Like, he's, you
Because
know,
it's a single car accident, and that's usually the reason you have a single car accident.
I guess. I'm not giving good faith to
What-
Shyamalan usually.
Now, one thing I love is again, and not another little like tick in the screenplay that I really enjoyed is how Graham has this this vocal tick where he'll ask somebody to repeat something. Like early on, Meryl says, "Run around and act crazy." And he's like, "Define crazy or explain crazy." He says it a few times, and it comes up in a couple contexts, and then it happens in a more it's done usually done for humor because Grant is either being like willfully obtuse or he's just kind of an old fart and doesn't understand what the characters are saying. But then it's used very effectively in that scene that's sort of spooled out in pieces, the accident scene where she says she's pinned between a tree, and he says, "Explain pinned." What does that mean? Like, I again, sort of it's a silly little character tick that's put in early, and then we use it in a more pathos heavy fashion later, which I really, really like.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really great character sketching, and he does it throughout the entire film. And everyone, from Cherry Jones, Sheriff, to Ray, everyone is written in a way that is, I think, pretty special for a film of really what this is like summer blockbuster filmmaking, you know, accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that really makes sense for a pastor or a priest, whatever he is, like constantly ask questions to frame, to understand what's going wrong in this person's life and what's happening. It feels like a very soft-spoken authority figure, what they're taught to do with people that they're interacting with in their day-to-day at their clergy. And he's just carrying that into the rest of his life, even with his children. I thought, yeah, like you said, a great character note, helps the audience out a little bit more too, sets it up for mainly funny reasons. But I think that, yeah, really works. And in the good sign that I hadn't thought about. But each character had like that little bit of a tick that keeps you invested in their dynamics throughout the entire movie.
And we get a little bit of a reverse shot for that interaction with surprise Merritt Weaver at the pharmacy, which I had forgotten that she's even in.
But it's so good. Yeah.
We always love a Merritt Weaver appearance. Where she's asking him to define and codify what it is and is not a quote unquote swear, which I think is
Yeah, it's such a clear.
And the way that she whispers it, bastard.
Because if douchebag, I swear,
if douchebag counts, it's actually 71.
Yeah, exactly. And those moments between these characters pinpoint a small town that I know he grew up in Philadelphia, and I'm not sure if it was on like the suburbs outskirts, but he's so apt at giving into small details to make everything feel lived in, which is not something I would say is a great skill of his. Here he's really masterful at. And unlike a lot of mainstream blockbuster filmmaking, genre filmmaking, and the best versions of it, which I think science can be, is those detailed and drawn out.
Yeah, I agree. And I think something we haven't expressly said is not only does he have that background, he is a man of faith. Like, he did study religion. He was about to take that direction and ended up an independent filmmaker. His first film is it the first film? There's which one of the two of them is set in a religious private school, Catholic school. What is it?
I think Wide Awake. Wide Awake, yeah, starring Rosie O'Donnell. In that Newsweek article, they apparently Rosie tried to stand up to Harvey Weinstein in the production of that movie. And I like fully stood up to him as well. And I was like, oh, M. Night, look at you being our salt of the earth independent director, seemingly have a decent moral compass, which for how cocky he was in the same article. In that article, I'm like, oh, I didn't think you had this in you to be kind of have a backbone. But it ended up creating the image of M. Night in my head that only gives me more reverence towards the filmmaker. But anyway, it was Wide Awake.
I was
And his
curious.
first film is Praying with Anger, which I've never seen. I don't know that it's
Mm.
widely available, but it
No.
is like a crisis of faith film, from what I
Right.
understand.
It is kind of wild. I had to look it up because I was curious about, like, what did this movie make? This movie made $408 million. That
It was
is
huge.
crazy.
It was huge. Can you imagine it making more than 100
No,
these days?
no.
Not at all. But
It
that
would
was
make it would make 50 million on its first weekend, and people would call it a success for making 50 million.
well, yeah, that's huge. I mean, but yeah, we used to be a real country. I
We really
guess.
did.
We used to have real event pictures.
Yeah. And here I am, like, clicking a refresh on Box Office Mojo to see if One Battle After Another made more than $20 million.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And when
More
Leo
on
went on that
later.
the Kelsey brothers podcast, not to parse into a new conversation, but the Kelsey brothers podcast, when he was on that, I'm like, oh, they're nervous about this box office performance that she's being paraded around on these very, very broy podcasts. But I hope
did
it
not
works.
know that
'cause
and I
Yeah.
hate it. I
I
hate the
know.
future.
it's so rough.
Billy, let me ask you. So, how do you feel about? You said that you feel like this had this early sort of the early 3-film streak. I'm assuming you're talking about Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, and then Signs.
And
What's your feelings about M. Night overall? Having seen what, now that he's made, 10, 12 plus more movies after this, what's your feeling about him overall as a film director? Is he still somebody you get excited about when you see his name crop up in those trailers, or how does it work for you now?
yeah, 100%. I think after, let me go to the release date real quick. After The Visit came out, I was back in. I didn't fully understand that he was like going full independent, raising his own funds, obviously Final Cut, all that good stuff. But he's one of these. It's tough. He's not like a PTA, obviously, where I'm like, I know quality is going to be baked in, and there's a gap in each movie. But he's close to the top that I just have a ticket bought for opening weekend for most of his movies.
You will be seated.
I will be seated because I'm excited for the unpredictability of the quality. I like getting the hype going for people to see it with me because they're going to be confused and it creates fun conversation afterwards. So it's the chaos of it all. But I think he's brought back the quality and the understanding of what, at least how to make a tight thriller is still there. And with movies like Trap, which I did like a decent bit, I could tell, like, all right, you're becoming a little bit too aware of what it's almost like what people said about Wes Anderson with Asteroid City, where it was like, oh, he's kind of commenting on what his career was. I feel like that's where M. Night's at with his own career, especially with Trap, where it's like, oh, you're giving us a little bit of insight as to how that criticism over your career is affecting you. And also either because of the cockiness or the confidence, doubling down on it. And I dig it. Like, again, it's not going to be my favorites of the year generally, but I'm really going to love the experience all the way through.
That is I don't think I have ever heard the M. Night is to Trap as Wes Anderson is to Asteroid City Cop.
But
And that is saying
I
something.
called it his body double.
There you
It's
go.
like the auto critique that's also a lob to the critical establishment.
Exactly. And of course, I can't remember what Trap came out to as, like, with the critics. It seemed like it was a really good 50-50 split of people that were like, oh, we're getting what you're doing at night. And then other people being like, oh, he's back to not understanding how to make movies anymore. But I think it's more on I'm much more on the positive side. I had a great time with a lot of his movies. The more
Have you
recent ones,
seen Tony Bazgallop's series for Apple TV, Servant, which M. Night was also a producer and a director on?
Oh, no, I haven't seen it.
Great series.
Oh,
Highly
really?
recommend it. Yeah, it is Bazgallop's show. It's a great
Mhm.
concept, a great execution, great acting all around, but it has a very distinct Chalamet feel, top to bottom, and not just because it's set in Philadelphia and takes place almost entirely in one townhouse for 4 seasons, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that. What we were talking about earlier, that lot of that exposition through news clips and media entering the household rather than cutting away to other things, which I think works really well. But if you haven't seen it, and you're willing to fork over for a month of Apple TV and to binge it, because it's done now, it's 4 seasons and done.
Right.
really, really worthwhile, creepy, good Twilight Zone shit, with a definite M. Night stamp on it. Let's say that.
Mhm. I mean,
All right. I think we've decoded all the signs. I know there's more to talk about. Andrew, this isn't the Shyamalan for me. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know
not,
what
it's not for me
I
either.
don't know which one it would be. I would actually, Billy, I kind of agree that it probably is his best, but I like other ones more.
mhm.
For their kind of balls out crazy ideas. I might vote for something like The Village.
Okay.
I
I
really
agree
need
with
to.
you.
I
think
really
you
need
said
to
early
revisit The
on
Village. Yeah.
in the podcast where for The Sixth Sense, the twist kind of ruins rewatches, whereas for The Village,
Yeah.
it does,
The Sixth
I think,
Sense
make
is-
it better. Yeah. I think it makes it better. So I think that makes sense to have that.
I haven't seen The Village since
Intuition.
it came out in theaters, and I feel like I really need to revisit it. There's a fascinating essay about it, long form essay about it at the Museum of the Moving Images site, where they talk about it.
Reverse
They-
shot.
Yeah, where they praise it specifically as an 9/11 and authoritarian government morality play kind of allegory.
I've gone there next weekend. So.
Oh, awesome!
Oh,
Yeah, I'll be in New
dope.
York. Yeah. So I'll
Jealous.
keep an eye out for that.
But it's a film that I feel like I need to revisit because I was maybe iffier on it when it came out, but with the benefit of hindsight, maybe I need to rewatch it. For me,
Yeah,
it's Unbreakable. For me, it's Unbreakable. Unbreakable is I've watched it like 10 times. It's like the superhero movie. I will take all other cape shit and put it over here, and I'll put Unbreakable on a pedestal. It's the best execution of a superhero movie in my opinion.
I woke up early this morning and said, well, there's got to be a Shyamalan that I need to revisit because I feel like I do watch his movies and I do like you, Billy. Like I'm there opening night. Like, what's this man gonna do? I'm so excited now that he's self-producing. You know, he's got something called Remain coming out with Jake Gyllenhaal that's based on a Nicholas Sparks novel.
I like the combo of M. Night and Gyllenhaal. I don't know if I like Nicholas Sparks.
Agreed. But I chose Violence and I chose The Happening.
Oh dear God!
Dear God, did I choose Violence? Yes.
You need to. Okay, maybe this isn't the forum for that, but at some point you will need to defend that pick.
I don't need to. No, it's indefensible. It's just that I've seen it once. And let me say that the chemistry between Zooey Deschanel and Mark Wahlberg is negative. Like, it's so bad. Maybe that's the point. Mark Wahlberg giving one of the most terrible performances. And yet, there's something about M. Night and the way he moves the camera, the way he understands a set piece. That's just so fascinating to me.
All I remember is Betty Buckley screaming about her lemon drink. There's a camp. I guess I can see the
Betty
camp.
Buckley in this house.
I guess I could see the camp value in that.
Well, I think we could probably have another hour on the camp value in Shyamalan and its lack of presence in Signs. But you know what? Thumbs up, definitely thumbs up for Signs. I'm gonna vote no. Sounds like Andrew, you vote no. We vote yes on Billy Rock all the time, though.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yes.
Can I snip out one scene in this movie and put it in the vault as maybe
What?
one of my favorite Shyamalan scenes of all time, which is
Pantry.
yeah, it's Joaquin Phoenix in the coat closet. Vamonos, children.
Yeah.
Maybe one of the best jump scares in his entire career, and it's a thing on a television, but it's Phoenix's whole body retreat back into the coats that makes it such a beautiful scene.
We should have known he's one of our best living actors at that moment.
So I'm gonna
incredible.
I'm not gonna vote the whole movie in the vault. I'm gonna snip that scene out, put it in the vault by itself.
Billy, will you please come back and we'll discuss more? You pick something else. Don't pick we've done Shyamalan now. We'll have to pick one of your other great movies that you love. How's that?
Yes, I need to remember what I suggested. I will. same on air.
Everyone's got a full list, and I did definitely point you in this direction. So if I
Yes.
misled you, I apologize. But
No, that's
Billy,
why I picked an M Night. It was I didn't want it for sure across the board. Like I think I can get these guys on board. It was a mission to see if I could get you guys on board through a little bit of argument and vouching for a movie that is popcorn, it's Crisis of Faith in a way that is very approachable in a child's mind and also a stunted adolescent 30 soon to be 34-year-old person. So
happy early birthday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. And do you like Apples is back? You guys were on a little bit of a break, but
yes.
Where can people find Do You Like Apples?
Yeah, so we are back on Substack. Do You Like Apples? That comes out every Friday. Drew and I are kind of alternating between tandem post and solo post and changing things up there. The podcast is going to be generally bi-weekly these days, but we're coming back to back with One Battle After Another and PTA next week. So will be on Spotify and Apple, and then Instagram, Twitter, You Like _Apples, and Letterboxd at You Like Apples. So yeah, we're in a lot of spots, and we're excited to be back. We're
very good. Fans of this show. You're fans of that show, I'm sure. So follow along. All right, Billy, thank you so much.
Thanks. You very much.
All right, and then Andrew and I have one more thing. Andrew, I don't remember whose turn it is, but I know for a fact that you have something specific. So buy me some time. And do you have one more thing you'd like to recommend this week?
Yeah, since we're talking aliens, let's go to the Alien, specifically Alien Earth, which is the new.
So many people talking about this thing, and I just need to watch it. I
just
need it.
New limited series. The first time I believe that there's been an Alien television show. It's had a lot of films and comics and video games over the years, but it's never had a TV show. This is showrun by Noah Hawley of Legion and Fargo fame. So if you're already a fan of his work, I don't think I need to say anything else. I could probably Noah Hawley doing an Alien show. That pretty much sells it. This is a prequel, technically. It takes place, I believe, 2 years before the original Alien. I don't want to get too much into what the hell is happening in it or go into a lot of plot. Suffice to say, it's an alien movie that takes place primarily on Earth, and they find a way to do that and make it very interesting. If you are what I would call like a super stickler for alien canon and whether or not something is canonically correct, then maybe this will anger you. I think the highest recommendation I can give, though, is that the super hardcore diehard Alien fans on the Alien subreddit, which is just called LV426, absolutely fucking love the show. So take that as a fucking recommendation nerd. Or not.
That you even know that exists, you fucking nerd.
Yeah, pretty much. I love Alien. I've loved Alien in every one of its weird redheaded stepchild forms. I don't think I've hated any Alien movies. And this is an Alien with a slathering of Noah Hawley, which I think just makes it something special in and of itself. But it also gets what I think is fundamental about Alien, which is goopy monster shit. Maybe the sort of the secret sauce of this movie. The show has two secret sauces, I think. One is a really interesting expansion of the idea of aliens, small a, in the Alien, capital A universe, in that they includes non-xenomorph aliens are in this show, which I think is something we've always suspected around the margins of the stories. They've intimated that there have been encounters with other alien life forms that aren't xenomorphs. And this movie has some real interesting, disgusting, terrifying alien species sort of added into the mix and creating an interesting bit of chaos. The other secret sauce,
and
I
it's
think,
8 episodes, right?
8-episode limited series. I think there's still some question about whether they're going to greenlight a season 2, which would be a shame if it didn't, because it did end on
Has it been a success? I don't know how you measure television success anymore.
My understanding is it's been a rating success. It's on Hulu, okay. Hulu and FX. So if you have FX through your cable, or if you have a Hulu subscription, you should be able to watch it.
Yeah, if you haven't canceled it.
Yeah, I do want to call out the other sort of secret sauce that I really love about this is performance. The performances are all very strong. Particularly, there's some younger actors playing children, so like 10 and 11-year-olds who have had their minds put into the bodies of synthetics, of androids.
It's so crazy. It's the one
And they're
thing I know
doing-
about this that is so wild to me.
And there's like half a dozen of them, and they're all doing different things with that idea of like, what would a 10 or 11-year-old in an adult's body be like? And they're all doing all interesting work. But the real standouts in this episode, in keeping with the Alien tradition of the synths are always the most interesting part of most Alien movies in terms of performance and character, that Timothy Olyphant, are Justified, Santa Clarita Diet, Mandalorian fame, is a full android in this, and he's doing with ghostly pale bleached eyebrows and like a fright wig, pale platinum blonde fright wig. Absolutely terrifying character, absolutely great performance. And then the real secret weapon is an English actor named Babu Sise, who is playing a cyborg, who is like, I don't think we've had this in the Alien universe before, a human with like robot pieces in them, part human, part robot, who's working for the evil, dastardly Weyland-Yutani Corporation as sort of like one of the main antagonists. And he is doing absolute star-making banger work in this show. So if you like Alien, I think all signs to point to you liking this show.
If you like Alien, all signs.
Yes.
Wow.
That was
You did it.
unintentional, but I'm taking the win.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's M. Night Shyamalan's career. That was unintentional, but I'm taking the win. Sorry, it's on what? FX.
FX and Hulu, yeah.
Very cool. And where can people see your signs?
At thetakeup.com.
Very cool. I'm doing a very local recommendation. As we're recording this, it's the weekend of Tower Grove Pride, but I went and wanted to spend some money and support local queer creators and artists and organizations. I ran by this booth called Groovy Company and immediately caught my eye. I sent you guys the link. It's very like psychedelic signs of the 1960s, but very deep cut shit, stuff I wouldn't expect. But, she deals with anything that's kind of swimming in that. Like there were hand painted totes and t-shirts and a lot of fun stuff with like Austin Powers on it, but something with Sharon Tate on it. But I found that she made this beautiful tote, and she only does one-of-a-kind pieces with the Carrie Nations
Oh my God.
of Russ Meyer's Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, hand-painted, I don't know if you can tell or see, in a very psychedelic, groovy pop art design, and it's the trio with, I can't remember all their names, but from Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. And it is, as a tote collector and specifically film tote collectors,
it's giving Josie and the Pussycats meets Yellow Submarine.
Yes, it is. Or maybe it created those things. Who knows? But you can actually follow the artist. Her name is Kirsten Casey. I hope I'm saying that right. At Groovy Company on Instagram. But you can also find me on Instagram and Letterboxd and other places at OK Josh Ray KMOV every Friday. Recently stuttered and hummed and hawed through a review of One Battle After Another, which you're going to be able to hear at least an hour of next week as we cover Paul Thomas Anderson's latest film, Vineland adaptation starring Leo DiCaprio, Tiana Taylor, Sean Penn, a film, spoiler alert, I won't be able to shut the fuck up about ever. Might be my new Carol.
I still need to see it, so I'm excited.
I just might invite myself because yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna be trying to stay under an hour on One Battle After Another next week. But until then, you can find us at the Take Up STL on social media. And thank you to Ethan Tarantella for help producing and editing the show. Kayla McCullough, social media. Theme music by AMP. And yeah, until then, swing away.